This episode was recorded live at a bustling trade show. The audio's a little rough around the edges, but the conversations are worth it.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Welcome to Don't Call Me Catty, the podcast where we don't sugarcoat the vet industry, but we do stir the pot. I'm Leilani. I'm an RVT and the CEO of Animal Health Link.
And I'm Jillian. I'm a financial education specialist and founder of Steady Gate Planning. This is Don't Call Me Catty. No fluff, just fur, fun facts, and some good stories.
All right, welcome to the Don't Call Me Catty podcast. We have Gerard O'Leary here. He is the CEO and founder of NxVet. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
We're here in beautiful Victoria at the TVMA convention.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's great. So we have known you for, I think we met
Year and a half ago, maybe something like that.
Yeah, a year and a half, 2 years
OVMA.
ago. And we've been doing a lot of work together, and collaborating. But I think you met Jillian in the fall, right?
Icon West, yes.
Yeah, you came to one of our events. I'm
the bowling one,
positive.
yeah, lots of fun. You guys always host the best events. So
we do know how to throw a party.
Yeah, for sure. I knew it was inevitable that you two would get together in some way and go viral on the internet. I saw it coming.
God.
So
Absolutely. You saw big things for us.
Exactly, from the beginning.
So part of the podcast is, well, for me anyway, I really want to break down some barriers around VetMed, lift the sheet, and show the dark parts of it. But in doing that, I think it's really important for Canadians to understand who are the people that make up VetMed, so that we can really just start humanizing the industry and remind everyone that VetMed is made up of humans that are just like everyone else.
Right, absolutely.
So if we were to have this conversation, and for those of you who don't know, who are you? Who is Gerard?
A nice, easy question to get us.
Yeah.
So I'll keep it short, but I've had somewhat of an unconventional journey into VetMed, I would say. So my background is actually in engineering. I grew up in Ireland. I did my undergrad there in electrical and computer engineering. And then I worked in industry for a few years. My first job was with the European Space Agency. And I was working on, there was a Mars rover that we were developing and launching in a few years for soil sample analysis and image processing and stuff. So nothing to do with VetMed at all. And then I moved to England for 2 years where I was working on the chips that go inside smartphones. So trying to make your phone faster, make the battery last longer, that kind of stuff. And about 2 years into that job, I had what I call my quarter life crisis. So I saw all my colleagues settling down, having kids, and I was just not ready for that. And I wanted to have kind of a bigger impact in the world, and I wanted to see how I could apply what I learned. And so I got into researching medical devices and thought about how I could use that skill in chip design to improve the quality of medical devices that exist in the human space initially. And there was this emerging concept called neural interfaces. So this idea that you could connect your brain to the internet and just Google by thinking. And I was just enamored by this concept. And I thought, if I'm going to dedicate my life to something, I want it to be something meaningful that could change the world. And I started looking into labs in North America in particular who were working on this kind of stuff. And I found that a lot of them were funded by the military. So I was less interested in that. But there was one lab in Canada, in Toronto, Roman Janov, shout out, who was working on these neural interface devices for epilepsy. I thought this was a great fit. So I sent him an email. We had a Skype. And then I quit my job and moved to Canada and been here for the past 10 years.
Sounds easy.
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 Right.
So how do you want people to know you?
That's a great question. I don't know if I want people to know me as much as I want people to know of the things that we've built. I want to build useful technologies for people. We started in human healthcare and epilepsy research, and my PhD was in that area. And then we were just looking for opportunities to use this technology in a useful way for society. And towards the end of my PhD in this medical device research, we realized that epilepsy was common in dogs. And we were like, okay, this is the perfect opportunity for us to take this technology out of the lab where we don't have to go through FDA approval and raise hundreds of millions of dollars for a human implant. It was, it seemed like a great opportunity. So that was how I got into VetMed. And I think what I learned along the way is that people are the most important part of your journey. And we met one of our mutual friends, Dr. Mark DeWold, who's just an incredible human being, super nice guy, amazing vet, had 5 of his own practices. And I really just admire this guy, and I really wanted to work with him in vet medicine. And so he's now our chief veterinary officer at the company. And yeah, just being immersed in the field and getting to know the characters and getting to know the space. Everyone is so humble. Everyone is really excited by new technologies, because I feel like in vet med, they felt like they've been overlooked in a sense. I feel like a lot of the cool technologies get into human med first. But what a lot of engineers don't know is that it's actually easier to innovate in the vet space, because it's easier to get into clinics. I can share many stories of like night shifts in vet practices with various devices, like trying things out. You could never do that in a human hospital. So it just felt really cool for me as someone who wants to build the latest and greatest technology. You can do that in vet med. You can choose whatever technology you want and test it and see if it works and if it's effective. So it's very exciting. Yeah, I'm really happy I made this decision.
That's incredible.
That's great. Yeah. And Dr. Mark, that's how we got introduced,
Right.
actually. He's such a great connector.
Right.
So now that you've been working in the veterinary space for a while, I have to ask you, as an RVT myself, and you being someone who comes from outside of veterinary medicine originally, what are some of the quirks about veterinary professionals that you've noticed? And actually, a follow-up to that, quirks about
You're putting me on the spot. I'm gonna
quirks about veterinary medical professionals, and then also about Canadians. I'm
Interesting.
curious.
Okay.
Definitely about Canadians. I want to know.
In vet med,
Yeah.
there's a lot of discussion about poop. Everyone is very comfortable taking pictures of their pet's poop and sharing it.
Yes.
Smartphones are just filled with galleries of these pictures.
And vomit.
And vomit,
And
yeah,
vomit,
for sure,
yeah.
and everything inside. Honestly, I feel like everyone in vet med is so humble. I don't know what it is. I feel like in human medicine, there can be some egos involved, and everyone's, of course, trying to do their best to help people. But I feel like in vet med, you're as much a psychologist as you are a doctor. You have to talk to the client to understand what's actually going on, because your patient can't speak. So it attracts a very interesting type of personality. And yeah, vets have such close relationships with their clients. They're like psychologists when it comes to family matters and everything. It's almost a member of the family. And yeah, just there's such heartbreaking stories with euthanasia and things like that, which are less common in human medicine. Like you're sitting down with a client, like crying with them when, they're having one of the worst moments of their life. So yeah, it's an amazing space to be in. And yeah, very good quirks, I would say.
Good quirks,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So you say the quirks are that veterinary professionals are humble, which is funny because that's the first impression I got of you. You have such an impressive resume. You're so smart. You got PhD behind your name. You're CEO of NxVet. And after I met you the first night, I was like, he is so impressive and smart, yet so humble.
Thank you.
So I think that's why you probably fit very well in vet med then.
I appreciate it.
So what about Canadians?
Well, I've married a Canadian, so I have to be careful.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
yeah, there are stereotypes that everyone's so nice. I think that's completely true. I think there's good sides and bad sides. Canadians are super friendly, and I think the weather probably plays a role there. I think we huddle together and you take care of each other. I feel like one thing that's maybe missing compared to the US, I feel like especially building companies in vet med, there's a lot of pressure for us to move south just because there's more money for a start, a huge market. There's arguably a better appetite for innovation too, I would say. I think that's slowly changing. I think AI is helping with that. But in vet med, there's a bit of pushback with new technologies because you're so busy in the clinic. You don't want to train new staff on new tools. I feel like in the US, they're more excited to try new things, I would say. Canadians are, I don't want to say a nicer version of people down south, but they're definitely very friendly. And yeah, that's my impression.
Okay.
So your journey, and I'm an outsider in vet med too, right? I'm not a
We're on the same
DVM, I'm
page.
not an RVT, but I love vet med. I love the business. And you are an entrepreneur. Like you have sacrificed a lot. And as much as I'm like, oh, it sounds easy, we all know it's not easy. So what are some of those low points for you in your journey? Like where you are up at night,
How much
maybe
time
you're
do we-
crying in the shower. I have a crying couch in my office, and some days I feel like I use it more than my clients do.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, it's a journey, that's for sure.
What's something that lives with you? Like that dark moment of, I never want to feel this way again.
There's so many.
Share with
There's pros
us.
and cons. I think one that comes to mind. So when we first started this company, we were developing implants for canine epilepsy, which is not at all what we're doing anymore. And so with each pivot, you need to step back and reflect and think about what's not working and if you have to cut your losses. So for context, I started this company in my attic during COVID when I was finishing up my PhD. We were working on the implant at the time. At a certain point, we realized that the market size would be too small and the cost would be too much to clients. It would be like $10,000 for the procedure. lots of biocompatibility studies that we would have to do, etc. So even though I had, like, my whole background was in implantable device development, I realized that this was just not the direction that would build a viable company. So I had to have a strong look at myself and think, okay, how are we going to pivot this? Are we going to give up? Are we going to pivot into something else? And so I feel like I've been through that process probably 20 times over the past 4 years, where you literally spend 6 months developing a technology, then you get it into a clinic, you try it out. And even though it works in the lab and the benchtop, when you get it into a clinic, if it's too difficult to set up, they're not going to use it. And I think that's the biggest lesson I learned, not just in VetMed, but in building a company in general. It has to just work. You can't ask users to spend 20 minutes or an hour setting up the technology. It has to just like seamlessly work first time. And that's what we're really focused on now. But I think one time in particular, when we left our attic from that first stage of the company, we're a spin out from the University of Toronto, and they have this abandoned church that they shove startups into to have a little bit of office space. So I was in the church, literally almost praying. And our latest prototype, which was an ECG monitoring system, it was working, but it was too clunky to set up. And we just realized that vets are not going to adopt this technology. And we were running low on cash, and you don't have the luxury of 10 years of runway to step back and try new things. And I remember sitting with one of the business advisors we had at the time, and I was thinking, I don't know what's next. We don't have a product. I have these investors that believed in me and trusted me, and I don't know the way forward. And he calls it threading the needle. So you need to just figure out that one thing, that one piece of technology you have that's unique, that people will use, and it's the path forward. So I think, as I said, this thought process has happened like 20 times, but I think the key thing is persistence. And I know it's a bit of a cliche, like in entrepreneurship, persistence is everything, but it's so true. It would have been very easy for me to give up at like many stages along the way. But knowing that you want to build something and having the right team around you too, and the right people supporting you, like Mark in the background,
Yeah.
we knew we were doing something meaningful, and we knew that we had something, and we knew that we had the team who could build whatever we wanted. We just didn't know what that thing was, and we were just progressively figuring out what the best product was.
Absolutely. And I so appreciate, I'm sure you do too, having entrepreneurs like you in my circle, because you totally get the struggle, right? I remember there was one, I think it was CVMA last year. You and I were supposed to meet, and I texted you and I was like, I am putting out a major fire. I'm so sorry.
Right.
I can't meet you right now. You're like, I totally get it.
Yeah.
Do what you need to do. We'll figure it out later.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So on that, talking about the pivot and all those sorts of things, when I met you, you did have your NxVet device that you're wearing right now. So
Right,
I want to
yes.
talk about that, because when you showed that to me and explained what the device does, my mind was blown. Literally, Gerard, every time I meet an investor, I'm like, you need to give this company money.
Thank you.
Like,
Appreciate it.
I think it is so innovative, and I think it's like the future of VetMed. So tell us, what's around your neck right now?
I guess before we get into what we have now, I want to just explain one thing about the pivot before this. So
Okay.
I mentioned we
Yep.
took a million pivots. The one right before this was a collar that we were developing. It was like a continuous monitoring collar, ideally for patients with chronic diseases like epilepsy or syncopal events, where we could track these like fainting episodes or seizures, for example. And we were trying to figure out what kind of sensors we could integrate into this collar that would be reliable. So there's a bunch of collars on the market, all claim to do certain things. We found that you couldn't get clinical grade accuracy with most of the sensors that were being used. Like ECG, for example, if you don't have good electrical contact with the skin, you're measuring fur, which
Yeah.
contains nothing. So the key thing is trying to find something that you can put on, again, getting back to that idea of it has to just work first time. There's no
Yeah.
shaving of fur or using conductive gels or anything like that. So we were cramming sensors into these collars, like everything you can think of, PPG, ECG, heat and spectrometry, all these kinds of things. The one that was working most reliably was this acoustic sensor that we had developed. So like a little microphone that sits on the neck. And we had to waterproof this microphone, and we came up with this type of membrane for the stethoscope that matched the properties of the skin more closely and meant that the audio quality was much better than what we had seen elsewhere. So that was kind of the aha moment where we're like, oh, we made a stethoscope here that seems to be performing a little bit better than the ones we were comparing against. So why don't we make a stethoscope, and like an AI-driven one? But then we thought, making a new stethoscope is a big ask. It's an instrument that every vet and RVT relies on. To ask them to put that down and trust a new company with this digital one seemed like a big ask. And then we just thought, why don't we just attach it to an existing one? And yeah, so that was the idea behind the form factor here, which is the stethoscope attachment.
Yeah, and it's like part of the uniform, right?
Right, exactly.
Somebody, especially a client who's there and needs care for their patient, and it's like trust, right?
Yes,
I look
right.
at you, you're wearing a stethoscope. I trust
Right.
that you're going to be able
Yeah.
to take care of my pet.
Right, exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then, when we had taken this pivot into this form factor, like the stethoscope attachment, we were working on noise cancellation techniques for the stethoscope. So canceling out like beeping in the background from instruments. And what we found was a lot of the noise that we were canceling out were actually conversations in the clinic. And we started thinking, what if we were to instead use these conversations for some purpose? And around the same time, like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, there was this emergence of AI Scribe companies on the market. And we thought, okay, this is like right place, right time. So we then started working on this current form factor, which has an integrated microphone for your scribing. So it's like your lapel microphone in a sense.
Can you?
Yeah, sure. That's the device.
Oh my!
Yeah.
You
It's
literally
life-
went from like recreating this thing like 20 times,
Yeah.
25 step backwards, to all of a sudden it's like an aha moment. Like you have like threaded the needle multiple times
Yeah.
in one device.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so it has that microphone for the transcription, but critically, TPR measurements are literally a pain in the ass for RVTs and for vets. And we have been putting a lot of R&D effort into temperature sensing for this collar, because if you could detect a fever or something, it can prompt you to do a teletriage or
Yeah.
contact your vet to see if it's urgent and if you need to come in. So it's surprisingly the most expensive part of this device. It's basically an image sensor that measures the infrared radiation coming from the body. And from that, you can infer the internal body temperature. But you have to do smart things with AI to compensate for like different fur thicknesses and things like that. So it has two modes, the voice mode and the vitals mode. So voice mode is your AI transcriptions, and then the vitals mode is your temperature, pulse, respiratory rate, but also analyzing the stethoscope recordings for things like murmurs and arrhythmias so that we can ideally grade murmurs. We're working towards that, but at least for now, prompting the vet or RBT to say, you might want to auscultate a bit more carefully. We think there might be a murmur and so on. Yeah, that's the product.
So would you use this as a DVM or RVT as a part of the wellness exam?
Everyone should have one.
So
and it should
okay, so here's my thought. As someone who's in insurance, it's like the insurance companies, you could develop a baseline of dog has a healthy heart, everything is normal from the beginning, and then you just start tracking, you be able to tell.
Disease progression.
Right, so the pre-existing condition clause goes away.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, and so you've told us a lot of the science behind it, but I want you to explain, because I'm an RVT, when I'm in clinic, walk me through. I walk into the exam room, and how does this go? How does this make my life easier?
Super simple. So it's attached to your stethoscope. The client walks in, you say, "Hello, Mrs. Jones. Is it okay if I record this conversation from my medical records?" She's like, "Yeah, sure." You press this button here, and it turns on the voice mode. So now you can see what we call the trust LED kind of flashing here to the client to let them know it's being recorded. Kind of like a body camera for police officers and so on. So now they know they're being recorded. It's transcribing the conversation. And then at some point during the exam, you're going to want to take your TPR. So you would be auscultating normally. And then you just press the second button here for the vitals mode. And this turns on the digital stethoscope and the non-contact temperature sensor. So then you hold this to the point of the elbow for 30 seconds. When it's done, it's going to give you your TPR inside your medical record, along with what's called a phonocardiography report. So basically, when you're auscultating, you're listening for that lubbed up or lubbed whoosh, there's a murmur. This will give you a report based on that. And so you've now taken your measurement. You say, "Goodbye, Mrs. Jones." You press this button. Conversation finishes, and then this is pushed to our servers, where we transcribe that whole conversation and add in the objective information from the sensors. Done.
Amazing. Isn't that amazing?
I am like so impressed with this.
Great to hear.
I'm like, how do I get one? I'm not a DVM or RVT, but how do I get one for my vet clinic
So we have
to be
finally launched. So we got our first 100 units from production.
amazing?
Yeah, we're shipping right now.
Sold them all? You're sold out?
Most are pre-ordered. We're holding some back for special people. So
Are we special? Can I give us my back?
Yes. Well, this is a key thing. I mean, because we're hardware, we didn't get into this, but it's a whole beast in itself when it comes to startups. And we want to build up testimonials, essentially. So the first 100 devices, we want to get to people who are going to be spreading the word. And, we'll get it to everyone eventually, but we want to focus on these kind of key opinion leaders first to get the testimonials. And then from there, we put in a large batch order for higher volumes. but depending on the volume you buy in hardware, the cheaper it will be to produce. So we're starting with 100 units. We're getting those testimonials built up. Then we do a large pre-order, and then we put in our order. A month or two later, we're shipping to customers.
So
yeah.
So, Gerard, have you crunched the numbers for how much time you'll be saving people with this device?
Yeah, it's a good question. There's a lot of numbers thrown around, especially in the AI Scribe space. So people say between 5 to 10 minutes per patient for a DVM. And then for the TPRs, I think you know better than anyone. I think it depends on the patient. If it's an angry German Shepherd that you need to sedate, it might take a little bit longer. So maybe 5 to 10 minutes on top of the medical record generation.
Yeah.
I think one thing I want to emphasize on the Scribe side of things, because there's a lot going on in that space, is that we're actually trying to partner with other Scribe companies as well. So we know that there are a lot of Scribe companies in the market. A lot of people have their tried and loved version that they prefer. So we want to make sure that that's not a barrier to people adopting NextScope. So we want, when you finish the recording here, it gets pushed to whichever Scribe company you're using.
Okay. But they could, if they don't have a Scribe company, they could still
use us.
Yeah.
Or
And
we
where-
have preferred partners or something. That would,
Yeah.
So where does all the data go? So you have your device, and then is it Wi-Fi? Is it like where? And then where does it record?
That is one of the hardest engineering questions.
Okay.
Now it's Bluetooth.
Okay.
So we have an iOS and Android app. It just syncs directly. You don't even have to take your phone out of your pocket. It's always listening for a measurement from the device. So it pushes it to your phone. Phone pushes it to our servers. We process the data, send back the results. But we're also working on a Wi-Fi version right now. The trade-off is power consumption. So as it stands right now, it's actually about 2 weeks of battery life for typical use, like 10 appointments per day.
That's very good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but we don't want to compromise that, because if it's every few hours, people are just going to stick on the
Yeah.
charger, forget about it. It needs to be, we think at least a week is reasonable. So that's the target.
And how long does it take to charge it?
Oh, it's pretty quick. It's a relatively small battery. So I think it's about 2 hours for about 80% charge.
Yeah.
And that's there's lots of little design decisions you need to make when you're making hardware. So with the device right now, if it were too heavy, it would start to drag my stethoscope down throughout the day. So we had to be really careful in the selection of the materials for this. So we had started with like stainless steel because we wanted it to be like strong and robust, and you could throw it at a wall and it would still work, but that was too heavy, so it would pull it down. We wanted longer battery life, so we had a bigger battery, but then that was adding weight, so it would pull it down. So we have aluminum and various other materials, and it's
and easy to clean.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, you can just wipe down the top.
Yeah. And that's why it's so important to have people in veterinary medicine on your team, right? So that they can consult about these things, because it's things you don't think about, but they deal with every day.
100%. Yeah, we can't build in isolation because we have an amazing team of engineers, but we have no idea really what's happening in clinics. I've spent a lot of time in there doing demos. As I mentioned, I've worked like night shifts and stuff, just testing devices, but it's so different to it being your 24/7 profession. And I think one of the nicest things we've done in the company towards that is building this veterinary advisory board. So we have 20 veterinarians now who meet with us every month, where we have an open discussion about where we're going, what they think is most important, and so on. So we have, Mark, of course, is leading that and sharing it. We have Dr. Todd Tams from Mars, BCA, Jennifer, who's here at the conference as well.
Yeah,
she'll
be at the event tonight too.
Yeah.
It's the place to be.
It is. Everyone comes. So we have about 20 people we pull together just to give us that kind of feedback. And that's the most rewarding feeling I always get as part of this whole journey, is demonstrating it to someone and seeing that reaction, or even like the explanation I just gave, and you're like, oh my God, I live for that. That's like the coolest thing as an engineer. But doing it in a clinic where there are times where I'm not even sure if it's going to work. Like we had one demo where there was a vet wearing a mask. They were using a crappy laptop microphone, and we didn't think it was going to work, and it just magically worked. And she was as shocked as I was. Like, I don't know if this is going to work. Let's see.
You're like, everything is crossed.
Right, exactly. So those kind of reactions are like, it's the best feeling.
So when you think about where you were, so where you are now, there are probably people that you are like, thank God I had those people in my life.
Yeah.
So are there 3 people who you could think of that have helped you either personally or business-wise, that you were like, I wouldn't be here if I didn't have that midnight conversation, or I didn't have that one thing that they said to me?
Yeah, I mean, Mark is number one for sure. Getting a lot of shout outs to Mark. He's an integral part of the company, and both on the business side, on the personal side. Like, we've had 7-hour drives to Boston where we were just these deep, heart-to-heart conversations, both on the business side, personal side, and juggling your personal life with all of this chaos too is really difficult. So having someone to discuss these things with is super important. So, well, okay, Marco's number 2. My wife has to be number 1.
Good save. We'll edit that out.
Perfect. Yeah, great. Yeah, just, again, having that support at home is huge. Those nights when you're in the office late and you're like, you could be lost on the business side of things, but there's someone who supports you and, it's going to be there for you. So that's huge. Third one is a tough one. There's been a lot of great business advisors that we've had, but at the early stages where it was particularly chaotic, where like literally every month there was a new product, but we were just pivoting, just throwing stuff, darts at walls and trying to see what sticks. One of our consultants was Jamie Tremaine, and he would really sit down with us, whiteboard things, talk through not just the technology, but my background is in academia and in engineering, so I'm not a business person. And I had to switch into that mindset. His direct quote was, "You need to love the business side as much as you love the tech side. It's not going to work unless you do that." So really strategizing on where the opportunities are, not just from a technology perspective, but a market size perspective, and your ability to capture that market is huge. And also one of his quotes, which is maybe not the nicest one, but he said, one of the things he admires about me is that I'm not afraid to kill my darlings. Like I would spend 6 months developing a technology and be like, okay, it's not going to work, and then scrap it. Like it's okay that I'm building it and I'm okay with scrapping my work. But I think in bigger companies, that's really disruptive to teams where you have like 20 people working on a product and you cancel it. And then they're like, oh my God, my boss just canceled my project.
Yeah.
I think the nice thing about our company is that they know I'm in the trenches with them and I'm pulling all-nighters. I'm like working on the tech. And so if I decide to pull the plug, they know that I'm losing as much as anyone.
You work just as hard to get it to work.
I'm aware of the magnitude of the decision.
Yeah.
And that's happened a bunch of times. So
yeah. So were you a fan of Game of Thrones then? Because they tend to kill off their
I watched it a little bit. Yeah.
I think that's the hard part being an entrepreneur is like going from zero to like building and seeing progress and then going backwards. Yeah. But then you find those people like Leilani, like I'll call Leilani. We talk about business all the time. That's how Don't Call Me Catty started. Right, was like this random, I got angry, called Leilani. We need to make something happen. But reminding yourself you have those people in your corner always.
People will appreciate this conversation and the podcast so much because they're thinking it, there's no one talking about it. There's a lot of people building companies out there who are thinking about it and they're deciding whether to make that plunge or not. And it's super helpful just to talk about it.
It's scary.
Yeah.
Like you go from everything but you think and is comfortable to being very uncomfortable.
I feel very even privileged to be able to do this. Not everyone is in this position. Even people who in the early days, like some of my co-founders who, they couldn't continue just because they had student debt. They're like, listen, there's no clear direction. I can't afford to risk it all for this. I think I was lucky that I still was doing a postdoctoral fellowship. I didn't have to still haven't taken any money from the company. So there's a personal sacrifice there too, but I'm lucky I can do that. And, for others, they can't, they have bills to pay, they have a mortgage, they have a family. So I think if I could change one thing in Canada, it would be having some way to make that jump a little easier. So even like in universities or anyone who wants to build a company, I wish there were more government support to encourage entrepreneurs to take that plunge because we're creating jobs, we're bringing money in from all over the world. It's beneficial to the Canadian economy. So I know it's kind of controversial that the government should be socializing capitalism in a sense, like paying for entrepreneurs to build whatever. And it can be abused, of course. It has to be a careful policy, but something like that is missing. Again, because we're lucky that we can take this opportunity, but others might have great ideas and they're stuck in a job they hate because they can't afford to leave and start something. It's risky.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's so important that you acknowledge the privilege that we've all had. We've all got some degree of privilege to be able to even have a startup, right? And because like you mentioned, as we all know, you don't pay yourself for a very long time.
It's a privilege and a curse. I
And I get so frustrated. People are like, oh, you're so lucky. And I'm like, okay, well, hold on here. I can tell you when I first started my practice, I went 9 months without getting a paycheck because of an error that an insurance company made. You got to be able to get through that, right?
I went a year and a half with no way.
Yeah. And even now, because I'm trying to grow and expand, I'm like, I go months and I don't pay myself, right?
And there's the financial sacrifice, but then like the emotional
side.
So people sometimes ask, oh, I'm thinking of starting a company. Should I do it? What are your thoughts on the experience? I would like to tell everyone, you should start a company. It's going to be great. I want to encourage more innovation and entrepreneurship in Canada, but be aware that you have no idea what you're getting into. Like once you get in, the CEO is responsible for everything.
Yeah.
Meaning, I'm the IT guy, I'm the janitor, I'm whatever is needed in
You
that
have to
moment.
show up
Especially tech companies, you forget, oh, I have to handle taxes. I have to handle all these grant applications. I
Yeah.
have to handle all these things. Everything is in your job description. And yeah, it will take over your life, essentially. So you need people around you who are okay with that. And you need to be aware that you will sacrifice your work-life balance as part of this.
Yeah.
Make sure you're ready.
I have a big question.
Okay.
We're going to make this a little bit light.
God.
Just a little bit lighter for you. You're like, I'm the hot seat.
Oh, God. What is this?
Okay, so music I find is one of the most important things. It doesn't matter where you're from. You can be connected through a song or lyrics, anything like that. So there's 3 scenarios where I think music plays a huge part, right? So I was at a conference. There was new people at this conference, and the leader of it said, okay, I want everyone to take a couple minutes and write down your walk-in song,
Oh.
your funeral song, and your win song. So when you have a big win and you shut the door in your car and you're like, fuck yeah! What song is that?
Oh, that's a good one. I wish I had time to think about this. I gotta scroll through them. I think the Rocky theme song probably is my walkout
Yes.
song. Yeah. And then your win song. What would that be? We Are the Champions, I guess.
Okay.
Love
And
it.
then, sorry, the last one was?
Funeral.
Funeral song.
Guys. There's an old Irish song called The Parting Glass. I'm not going to sing it. You can watch it on
Oh, you
YouTube.
can.
But it's, no one wants to hear that. Your podcast will be canceled. But it's just like, I think the moral of that was just like, it's just appreciating the people that were around you in life. It's just a bad song, but it's the only funeral song I can think. They're not really on my playlist, but
There you
not
go.
planning to die anytime soon. But
Well,
yeah.
if you do, we'll know what to play.
Yeah, the glass of whiskey.
Okay, thank you so much for
My
being on the
pleasure.
Don't Call Me Catty podcast.
Fun.
It's been really fun. Before we go out, take your time to do a shout out. What do you want people to know about NxVet? What's coming next?
How do they contact you? How do they get on the wait list?
Yes.
Because I need to go do that
Fantastic.
just to buy it
Yes.
for my veterinarian.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. So the website is nx.vet, next.vet. We're live. We're launched. So yeah, there's software available online. We have 100 units that we're shipping right now. We're taking a back order for more. Anyone who's interested in taking it and doing a review or a podcast or something where they're reviewing it, we will prioritize you. So reach out to me directly. It's Gerard at nervex.tech, which is the parent company that we started for that implant. Thank you to everyone, including you, Leilani, and yeah, Jillian, for hosting me here, and for everyone who helped along the way. It's not a one-person journey. There's a team behind this, and yeah, we're super excited to be here.
Great.
Thank
you so much.
Amazing.